All right, it was a long weekend of college basketball, a lot that we have learned, some teams that have overperformed, and some teams that maybe haven't looked as good as we thought initially. But now we get a second chance to analyze things for the Sweet 16, fill out a little second chance bracket. So let's get right into it and make some picks.
All right. Hopefully your brackets were better than mine. I know Grant's likely was, almost guaranteed was. But
Some
with
of
that,
mine are in a good spot, but they haven't been great at most of the underdog shouts I took didn't pan out the way I wanted to. Gonzaga pulling off that upset would have been huge for me, but did not happen.
yeah. But
Pretty
with that,
chalky. We got two sixes involved. The West is, I guess, St. John's lost, so you get Arkansas in there, which is fun, and then the Midwest is just fully chalk. So I think 12 of the 16 1 through 4 seeds made it. Michigan, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and BYU being the only exceptions there. So
yeah.
pretty chalky.
So Auburn, Michigan. What's going to happen in this game? Because when I was watching Auburn, I felt like I watched two of their starters just not be able to play like the end of the fourth quarter, or not fourth quarter, second half.
I'm hearing they'll likely probably be fine, but just in general, Auburn hasn't looked as strong as I think we hoped they would, or hoped they'd kind of put things back together after they closed their season on a disappointing note. I definitely think they're vulnerable. I think Michigan has looked good. I do think they probably played their best game of the season against A&M, which is a great thing. It means they're peaking at the right time, but I also don't know if they're going to be able to put together a full performance like that again on Friday against an Auburn team that also swarms on defense. And Michigan was a lot safer with the ball in that game than they usually are. So a little bit of a return to the mean could result in some turnovers here. Um, if Michigan turns the ball over double digit times like they have most of the season, I don't see them winning this one. Um, I do think they're live, but I would probably lean Auburn.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I just can't really get a strong sense of whatsoever because it's like if the players are loaded on Auburn, then in theory they're misvalued. And
Yeah, I think they're like an 8 point favorite or something, or a 6 point favorite, or somewhere in that range. So decently significant.
so are we rocking with Auburn, you think?
Yeah, I
Just
think so.
simple. All right. Ole Miss versus Michigan State. Like you said previously, Michigan State makes all the right adjustments, which was kind of crazy to watch.
They do. They also haven't shot the ball well, which was my biggest concern going in, and they've survived. I haven't been too impressed with either of the teams they've played. Like, I don't want to read too much into it. I don't think they've had like a super quality test. Ole Miss could definitely be that if they continue to shoot the ball the way they have through 2 games. Um, if they shoot the way they did last night, they'll win this game. But it's gonna be hard to replicate a 58% from three and 58% overall kind of performance like they had last night. Sean Padula has been unreal, which has kind of been their go-to guy most of this season. He's been creating good looks off the dribble. Last night he hit three threes, made 6 shots overall, 20 points. So I think they're very much live in this one. Michigan State is going to need to play better. They have not knocked down their threes, which was my biggest issue with them. I think this one could go either way. I'm curious what the line is in this one, but I genuinely think Ole Miss has a decent shot to take this one.
I'm just gonna ride with Michigan State. Like shooting's
Two
volatile,
and a
but
half point
yeah,
spread.
2.5 point spread's not large.
No, which is telling me they're decently live. But I'm fine taking Michigan State. I think they'll probably shoot the ball better, which will prevent them from getting in a hole like they did the last 2 games and kind of playing from behind. But it's nice to know they're comfortable playing from behind. That's big to know going forward. So
I feel like Ole Miss also just got like really hot, if that makes sense, like really early.
they did, but it did last 2 games. Like you never know, they might just be on one right now.
Yeah, that's true. But I think we're gonna rock with Michigan State here.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
fine with
move,
me.
moving down, Florida versus Maryland. I feel like Florida is good chalk, but I could easily be wrong. Like watching them was crazy. Um,
Yeah, Maryland has been pretty impressive. I don't think they've looked great. I don't think either of the teams they've played are really on their caliber yet, especially in terms of athletes. Like they just didn't have the guys to match up with Maryland's bigs at all. Florida, completely different beast. They can match up 1 through 5 well, and will have the better athletes in this one, which is kind of what you want to see against a Maryland team that's kind of thrived on bullying down low with those kind of dudes and dominating the glass. Florida, with the way they play and the bigs they play, it's unlikely that they'll get bullied on the glass. So I think Florida potentially even just laying the number as well in this one. I think this one could get a tad out of hand. I like Florida for sure.
Yeah, that's way more information than I could ever provide on that matchup. So I like it. Go Gators. Texas Tech versus Arkansas. Looking at the bracket, I do think this is the most live thing for an upset, which might be where chalk is going. But like, I'm leaning Arkansas here. I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to like Texas Tech for good reason. Want to hear your thoughts?
Yeah, decently significant 6 point spread. Texas Tech has looked awesome in my opinion. They have dealt with a couple injuries. Chance McMillan, who is one of their better guards, has been out for the tournament. I'm not sure what his status is going to be ahead of this, but he was guaranteed to miss the first 2 games. But JT Taubin has been an absolute freak so far this tournament. He was crazy in that game a couple days ago against Drake. And Darius Williams was also really good in that one. Those two combined for close to 60 points. So that was very necessary to get that kind of production from those two with the injuries they're dealing with. This definitely could be a spot where the injuries catch up to them. And I think Arkansas has the talented wings and the athletes to keep up with JT Toppin and try to bottle him up a little bit. The Arkansas defense has been super impressive. They've been swarming so far in this tournament and have kind of managed to keep some of the better wings they've played at bay. They played really good defense against St. John's, which kind of won them that game. So I'm fine taking an upset shout here.
I like it. We shoot and we move. Duke versus Arizona. I mean, everything I've heard is that like this Duke team is essentially just metrically insane, and they kind of showed it as well.
Yeah, they're pretty built different for sure. If Tyrese Proctor is knocking down threes at the clip that he has towards the end of the ACC tournament in these 2 games, like they're going to be an extremely tough out. Flag was able to play significant minutes yesterday and looked good in them. That game was pretty close for a while. They obviously managed to pull away towards the end, but I think they're a super tough team to beat. I will say the Malik Brown injury is definitely a costly one. I don't think their ceiling is quite as high as it was prior to that injury. So I think they probably get through this one, but I'm not as high on Duke going forward because I definitely think they've looked a tad beatable in these couple games without him. You also have a situation where Caleb Love has played against Duke. He spent his first 3 years at North Carolina, known chucker. He's been hot. He's been playing well the last couple games, so he might be due for a vintage Caleb Love 3 of 19 game and kind of shoot his way out of this one because he's forcing it against a former rival. So, yeah, I think I like Duke, but Arizona's been very, very impressive so far. So I think this should be a good game. I'm not seeing a line projected up yet, but I think it'll be a little bit closer than people think.
I like that analysis. I agree. I think Duke just squeezes through on this one. I think Arizona might be a more popular upset just because of that narrative you were saying. People are like, he's going to get back, etc. As we know from the beginning, been rocking with the Tide. I don't know. I guess kind of some further thought on that. I saw 3 really popular picks. Basically, Duke was like slammed in every bracket possible. So extremely popular, especially relative to odds. And then who was the other one? Auburn. I saw Trent pick them, so I'm like, they're going to get bumped somewhere. If Trent's picking them to win it all, you just can't. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of really sharp people picking Florida, which I thought was interesting. And all the metrics kind of led to Auburn, Florida, and Bama. But I saw the better picks guy made like a statement that made no sense when he decided to exclude Alabama. That's how I ended up here. And they also seemed underwhelmed
Yeah.
relative to their others.
No, I like the analysis. I think I'm gonna take BYU in this one. Just the shooter's been hot, and this game is gonna be potentially the most fun of this round. They both want to play a similar style. They both want to get shots up. They both play at a super fast pace, which I guess could favor Alabama, given that their past matchup was a situation with a team that wanted to slow things down, but Bama managed to pass
Mormons are
that test with
going
flying
down.
colors and kind of just bully that one, which was good to see because you need to see them play well against a different style than what they're used to. I've been super impressed with BYU. I think Wisconsin's a great team, and they were dominating that game for most of it. It ended up close, obviously, but they were in the driver's seat for most of it. So I would be fine taking a shot on BYU, but I understand your alliances, so I'm just gonna let you click this one.
All right. I'm probably going to rock with the Tide here, but I am curious because one thing that I thought was really sharp that you pointed out at the beginning of the tournament, and part of why I had BYU advancing originally, was teams that rely heavily on one player are typically the most live to get upset. We saw that with the Tanjay kid that you were pointing out. What other teams in this tournament would you say kind of fit that profile?
I don't know if anyone is like just one guy. Texas Tech probably.
Okay, so we goes that. Okay.
Not really Michigan. I mean, most of these teams rely on like two guys. So Purdue is like heavily reliant on two guys running the whole offense, pretty much. Tennessee, Chaz Lanier is like by far their best scorer, which is Kentucky definitely has more options. We'll get to that game in a sec, but
just so I'm gonna walk with Bama here.
Yeah,
I just wanted to hear that though, because that was something that kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah.
If you're a believer in Gordon Palm, you're probably picking Purdue here. If you're not a believer, you're probably choosing Houston to go to the Final Four.
I think I would hammer Houston in this spot, just given the thing we just touched on. I think their guards are really good defensively. They also have bigs that can keep up with Trey Kaufman Wren down low in this one. And I just think if you can get to the head of the snake and put a ton of pressure on Braden Smith, it's not going to look great elsewhere. And I think that's probably going to be Houston's game plan, just to blitz him cross half court every possession and try to make other guys beat them. And the other guys haven't been great so far. So I also think they've had a fortunate draw. I'm not that high on this Purdue team. They just got McNeese and High Point, which, I mean, good stories, McNeese, obviously, but it's just not the caliber of team that Houston is. It's nowhere near. So I don't think you can fully say that they've looked like amazing in this tournament so far, just based on the fact that they haven't beaten like a true Power Five like team that's loaded with talent and all that. So
I like it. All right. Kentucky versus Tennessee. I kind of want to rock with Kentucky, but I'm curious to hear if you think that is going to be the theoretical chalky underdog pick, because I imagine they're going to be dogs in this game.
Yeah, Tennessee is probably one of my favorite picks of this round. Just looking at a bit of a matchup type of situation, these two teams have played twice this year, and Kentucky won twice. So I personally just have rocked with a little bit of a system in conference tournaments and that, where if a team has beaten the team twice, I like the other team to make the required adjustments. I think Tennessee's been a better team all year. I just think they've had some tough matchups against Kentucky, where Kentucky shot like 50+% from three, and things kind of got out of hand quickly. And if Kentucky shoots 50% from three again, they will win this game. But I just expect Tennessee to make the proper adjustments. They are going into this one as a 4.5 point favorite. I've been super impressed with the Tennessee defense. I think that win against UCLA was more impressive than some would give it credit. It was a super late game, so some people might have just tuned out as well, but they were great on defense, scored plenty, and were in control for most of that game against a UCLA team that was able to control the pace, play slow, and dominate Utah State just a couple days before. So I'm going to rock with the defense in Tennessee here.
You gave me Bama, so I'll give you Tennessee. All right. So we move forward. Auburn versus Michigan State. I honestly think we're just very live to potentially get 4 number 1 seeds. I'm obviously, I'm rocking with Bama to get there as well. Um, what say you? That's kind of where my brain's at on this. I think it's just going to be
Yeah.
in that sense.
I'm going to take Michigan State, and then I think we can talk about the other ones in a sec, but in this one, I would like Michigan State. I think if they get through Ole Miss, it means they corrected some of the shooting woes, and they'll go into the weekend a little bit more confident with their jump shot. So I think they're very alive in this one. The defense is obviously great coaching, super deep rotation. They have like 8 or 9 guys that can all produce and be effective. So I think if the jump shots are falling down, they're a tough team to beat, and I think they probably get through Auburn there.
All right, I like it. Michigan State moves through. Florida, Arkansas. I think we're agreeing on this one though.
Yep.
All right.
Agreed.
I gave you Michigan State. I'm rocking with Bama because of the injuries on Duke. I do think that's going to become more prevalent, especially with the pace they play.
That's fair. I probably would have leaned them losing in the Final Four to like a Houston or something, but just one round different, and I can see the matchups that Bama could potentially exploit. And Duke still hasn't played a close game, and they've struggled in those this year. All of their losses have come in kind of fumbled late game situations and stuff like that. So I think if you can keep this one close and score enough to make it a 1-possession game down the stretch, you are playing a team that has not been super prepared for those type of looks. So, yeah, I'm down for that.
One of these 1 seed or 2. I think we're going to find a 2 seed from one of these 2, more than likely to win. That's what it looks like. Houston, Tennessee. Are we pushing Houston through, or are we rocking with Tennessee?
I'm down for Houston. I think Tennessee's super live in this one. This will be a super fun game. 2 super defensive teams. I think Tennessee has the best player on the court, but I think the Houston defense can probably kind of bottle them up and create some tough opportunities. But if Lanier's on, I think they probably beat Houston if he's playing his best, just because I trust his offensive production mixed in with the other role players more than I trust guys on Houston to consistently get buckets. So I think that'll be a super fun game.
I like it. All right. Michigan State, Florida. Are you going Florida, or are you pushing Michigan State?
Taking Florida, yeah.
All right.
Staying true to it. And then I'd lean Houston here, but
all right, we'll go with Houston for you.
Yeah, I think in that situation, it's like a super matchup of different styles, and I just think Houston's defensive pressure can capitalize on a lot of the turnovers that Alabama makes, and Alabama's going to need Mark Sears to play a lot better than he has so far, obviously. So, yeah, I'm rocking with Houston in that one.
I like it. All right, Florida versus Houston, though. Which way do you lean?
Let's go Florida.
Ooh.
I mean, I've stuck with it. I got a Florida future in back in January, took them to win my bracket in the first attempt, and they haven't given me too much of a reason to reconsider that. The UConn game was certainly sketchy, but that's a team with a ton of experience late in these rounds, and I always knew that game could get a little trappy. We'll learn a lot more against a Maryland team that should be a good matchup for them. So, yeah, go Gators. We'll lock that in.
Perfect. We're going to go ahead and submit this bracket here. With that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Adjust your brackets accordingly. As you guys know, mine will have Bama in the end of this. And who knows, maybe I'll play around with a few upsets as well. I'm sure Grant will make some adjustments to his own personal bracket if he decides to make one here.
For sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned to PredictionStrike socials on Instagram and TikTok. We'll have a lot more March Madness related content, some previews for games if you want to find an edge or some matchups to exploit. Maybe give you out some player props as well that we think have good matchups in their round of 16 matchups. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Download the app, drop a like, subscribe. Thanks for getting to this point. And yeah, I'm excited for some more college basketball. It's time to lock in this weekend.
Right on. Until next time, y'all. Peace.